was our judges don't campaign. You may see a little synopsis about it in the ballot or someplace, but when you go for voting, it's just there. Their names are there. So that's not enough information for us to select favorite judges.
Probably what's happening, and it used to happen a lot here in Michigan, and to be quite honest, I broke that mold, is that no one ever challenges the judges. So they're either appointed or they are elected initially, and when they come up for re-election, there may be 10 judges up for re-election. And no attorney says, well, I want to be a judge, I'm going to run against them. And so they don't have to campaign because everybody's going to get re-elected. There's nobody that's challenging. When I was elected to the Wayne County Circuit Court, and that was 20 years ago, I was the first attorney to run against sitting judges in 50 years.
50 years?
In 50 years. And it had only been done once before. And part of it is that a lot of times you're a practicing attorney, and if you're going before the judges, there can be backlash. Okay. Sometimes they will rule against you, and so you're taking that risk. It's expensive, and oftentimes people will say to you on the campaign trail, I want a yard sign, but they didn't get $5 to the campaign.
Yes.
So did the yard sign just fall out of the sky? All right? And so it can be expensive as well. But I'm expecting that in your area it's probably the same thing. We, this year, we do have election. We've had a couple of attorneys who've run against the sitting judges. I did it, so I don't fault anybody. And I think that if you want to change, if you think there needs to be a change, sometimes you have to be the energy behind the change. I was going to court in our county court, which is where I ran, and that was our family division. And I would have judges ordering my clients to do activity with their families that were totally out of sync with the culture of the people. Okay. And I'd stand and say, well, they just set these folks up for failure. Okay. And so that was part of my motivation for running. And I think that sometimes the community, if they're unhappy with what's happening on the court, they need to seek out an attorney. They need to say, we want to change. We think that you can be the person to initiate that change. And we're not going to just give you lip service, but we're going to help you with the campaign process.
I think that's excellent. So now let's turn it over to Larry. Larry, tell us who you are.
Well, my name is Larry Laughlin, and I'm also now from LA, but originally from the south side of Chicago. So when we go to to vote for judges, we might have their names on a sheet of paper, ballot, and we really don't know much, if anything, about the judges. And we were wondering if there was some way we could find out the background of these judges to know, is that the kind of judge that I want to vote for? Is he in favor of the same things I'm in favor?
We, in Michigan, the judges are all listed on a separate part of the ballot. They're not listed with a political party. They're listed on a part of the ballot identified as nonpartisan. And that's the first problem, because people will see nonpartisan, and I'm not nonpartisan. I belong to this party, and I've been working with this party for so many years. I'm not nonpartisan, and they don't vote that section of the ballot, and so there's a big drop off when they tally the votes for judges when they House seats and rep seats and Senate seats, because people are voting their party. Excuse me. So what I tell people is, if you can sometimes look up the person, especially now when we're in the internet age, and you can Wikipedia, Google, and I tell people, look to see where that person worked before they became a judge. What type of company did they work for? Did they work for legal aid? Did they work for a large insurance company? Did they work for a nonprofit of some sort? What type of work? Because that's where their interests lie. Then I suggest to people to look to see what organizations they may belong to. Did they volunteer their services with any organization? Because again, that tells you where their interests are. So if you have someone that is volunteering with an organization that you think is responsible for restricting access to the polls, and they're proudly listing, there's the Federalist Society, for example. And the Federalist Society has a principle of law that is very, what we call conservative. If you view yourself as a conservative voter and you see somebody was a member of the Federalist Society, that may be who you want to go with. On the flip side, if you are an individual who is more progressive, then you see someone that's a member of the Federalist Society, that may, oh no, that's not my person. So that's how I, advise people, is to look where they worked, what companies they may have worked for, look at what organizations they are members of, and where they may have volunteered their service.